I'm not quite sure, but from where I'm standing and viewing, given the level of education I have, which is, a certain level, and the way I think, it seems like it could be rigged. But then again, depends what you mean by rigged, right? Because that might mean different things to different people. So here's what did happen, which is publicly available information. They redrew the electoral boundaries for different new towns and things, like different areas of Singapore. I could be wrong, but I believe they were redrawn about 2 months before. And also, from what I read online from other people's posts who obviously know more about politics than I do, they said that people were just given 9 days to do their rallies, their outreach, and so on. Because obviously in Singapore, you can't just go around doing that like throughout the year. Now, I don't know if those two things on their own show you that the election is rigged, or if that fits into your definition of rigged, but it can seem like, from, on any education level and any kind of thinking, if you give somebody 2 months to redo their entire effort and 9 days to spread their stuff, that's obviously, swinging the election one way or another. Again, it could seem like that because the government could always come back and say, no, this was a special provision this year. Yes, we agree it was shorter time because of the global climate and we need to act fast and whatever and what have you, right? And I don't know if those are valid reasons or invalid reasons, because again, I don't know that much about politics or how to run a country. On the surface level, it can seem like that. And it certainly seems like that to a lot of people based on all the posts I've read all over the internet. For example, like this one party which I volunteered as a polling agent for, which is basically, polling agents are just people who go to the polling day and they make sure that things are going fairly. Basically just admin staff. In that party that I signed up with, Singapore Democratic Party, I heard that there was this gentleman, Chee Soon Juan, you can go and read up about him, where he's been in politics for like very long time, 20, 30 years. He was jailed a couple of times, by the presiding government at that time, I believe. I'm not sure for what, and I haven't gone deep into that. But apparently he spent the last 10 years campaigning and getting to know residents on the ground and helping them and so on in this one geographical area in Singapore, right? Which is called like a constituency, okay? And that 2-month period that the government gave, they apparently joined that little area, which he was in, with a much larger area, and he ended up not competing in that area. Now, I'm still trying to figure out the reason he was not competing in the area. I'm still talking to people in the party to learn more about how politics works, but that's what happened. And he ended up going to another area across the island, further up north in the island. And even in that area, he won 46% of the votes. So maybe that's a bad example because he won 46%, which is a lot, but or very close to the ruling party, the PAP. But the part of that example I'm trying to show is that, people had to just like forego their 10 years of effort. Now, if you put all that together into a whole, I think if you think at my level, which when it comes to politics is probably a 6th grader's level because I really don't know that much about politics, it does seem like they're trying to play unfair. And again, there could be many valid reasons which I may really not know because I'm not in politics. Just like how when I'm in the music industry, to everybody else who's not in the music industry, something might look one way. And then you actually have to be in the industry to realize, oh, no, it's this way, but it appears that way. So, but it seems that way. It just seems a little one-sided. However, I would say that there's nothing directly untoward or rigged in a sense or vile or nasty or anything like that that's visible. Like not the words of any of the politicians that, during the campaign, not any kind of open oppressive measures or anything. But you can see that like I said earlier, the 2 months, the 9 days, things like budgeting, it would be harder for an opposition candidate, easier for someone in power. and so on. So, I mean, as adults, when we go through life, we have to look at that part too. So even though the government may say that, hey, no, it's completely not rigged or whatever, we can also see that as human beings, it could. People might do things to their advantage. I think every human would do that anyway, in all industries. I don't see that necessarily as a big problem, other than the fact that it might be a little unfair or appear as a little unfair. Either way, both can be improved upon. But the part that is a problem is why everybody's a little bit angry is because, or at least half the population's a little angry, is because there are things in the system. There's a couple of things. One is that there are poor people in Singapore who are getting pretty oppressed. And again, people might say, depends what you mean by poor. Like, as for me, there's parts of my life I've not had a job. So that's zero income. So is that poor? Possibly. But if the rest of your family makes it up while you're not working, is that still poor? I don't know. Maybe not. So one part is a lot of Singaporeans are getting left out, especially those on the lower social economic classes. While somebody may say, and some people were commenting, and we were commenting back and forth on Instagram, where they were saying like, hey, that's like, that's just life. Like you gotta, they were starting to teach me personal development. And I was like, no, I completely agree with you. I teach that stuff to paid clients. So I'm all about the personal development. And if you want to go far in life, nobody's going to give you a free meal and blah, 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 blah. However, if we're talking about the running of a country, I think as it says so in Conversations with God, the book, basically, it would be great to have everybody have their basic dignities met. So everybody has housing, everybody has food. Okay, then who wants to go higher? Nobody's stopping you. But if it's a system where somebody's living in $1 million bungalow, somebody else has one meal a day, and they just literally live 3 kilometers from each other, I think that's a little ridiculous as far as humanity goes. Which again might have nothing to do with politics in the sense that all humans in all industries need to learn that a little bit. So it might not be specific to politics. But a lot of us are hoping that our politicians learn that. Because, or maybe, they already know that, but they might say like, hey, but again, you're not in the industry, so you don't know how this shit works. It's so hard to do that. Okay, fair enough, open to learning and that type of stuff. But that's what everybody seems to be upset about. The other one that people were upset about was that in the places where the PAP and the Workers' Party were the two competing parties, the Workers' Party actually got more votes in the constituencies that they won, and as a total, there's a table, I'll try to put that table in the comments as well, where the constituencies where it was PAP versus Workers' Party, if you add up the total of all those Workers' Party votes, it's actually higher than the total PAP votes. But the PAP won more. So they won by a smaller margin in many more. But the ones where the Workers' Party won was like humongously more. And so the total Workers' Party votes in those areas are more than the PAP. Of course, then somebody else can raise, well, there's also other places that the PAP was either having a walkover or competing against lesser known parties. So they won there too, so eventually they deserve to win. Well, that's kind of true. But then there's also the part where there's something called a group representation constituency, a GRC. And then there's SMC, single member constituency, where one candidate competes with one. So where the one candidate competes with one, it seems like a slightly fairer fight. On the 5-member constituency thing, or the 5 versus 5 kind of political rally, the issue is that, there might be a really strong candidate in the opposition side, or the government side, either way, and the rest might be like not so strong. But then the other party might have only reasonably good candidates, but because there are 5 of them, they might get voted in, and the win-loss ratio, the win-loss result is just all 5 go in, And so that potentially could lead, if I'm looking from an intellectual perspective, that could potentially lead to a less strong governance in that area, because sometimes all it takes is one strong person to change a whole nation for the better, or the worse, but we're talking about the good ones right now. Oh, and one part that personally pissed me off, because I like to correct people on their English sometimes, is that a lot of the regional newspapers were saying landslide win. But I wouldn't consider 60-40 or 55-45 or anywhere around that area a landslide. I mean, they gotta, pick up a dictionary again. It's not a landslide. And if those papers and media and articles were sort of press releases bought by the Singapore government, because that's how press releases work, and that part I do know because I am in the media. So, you send basically an email to news outlets and they decide to post it or not. So if that was the government typing landslide, then they might need to get their copywriter to improve their English a little bit, because how in the world is 60-40, which is almost the same number, a landslide? A landslide would be something like 90-10, 80-20, Like, that's like you could ask a sixth grader, like, or even a first grader, my daughter will be there next year, you can ask them like, is this a lot more than 40? And they'll be like, no, just a little bit more. So how is that a landslide? I mean, I don't get it. But sure, those are my thoughts. Thanks for asking. Those of you catching this on YouTube and everywhere else, this was a response to one of my friends on a Facebook comment, but I thought I might as well just turn it into a video. All right, take it easy.